been a tremendous rise of women's violence against men from 1985 to 1991, and we here at Rolanda are always concerned about violent family situations, and that's why we thought it was important to do this story. I like the points that we've been making. It doesn't matter who's violent. If your home is violent, then we've got to help. There are currently fewer than 6 shelters for battered men in the United States, and we're about to introduce you to the man who helped found the very first one. Where are you, George? George Gilliland. He founded the very first one, the very first shelter for men in the United States. You're joining us live via satellite from St. Paul, Minnesota. Thanks for joining us, George.
Thank you for having me.
George, tell me, if you could, what the situation was before you founded the shelter. If you were a man being battered by your wife or girlfriend, where could you go? What situation were you in?
Well, you could do the same as I and many other men have done. You can spend the days and nights in your car with very little money in your pocket, or you can humiliate yourself by turning to friends or relatives and begging for a place to stay and food in your stomach if you want to. Other than that, there's virtually no place to turn to. And fortunately, I've heard some comments from some ladies in your audience that have brought that to light, whose thinking is exactly the same as mine. I am not known as a men's rights activist by those that know me and know what we do. I'm known as a man that demands nothing more than equality and the same continuum of treatment for every victim of domestic abuse. I don't care if it's a man or a woman, if they're black or white, lesbian or gay, Catholic, Protestant, Buddhist, or whatever they are. Every person that is a victim deserves the same type of treatment and compassion.
That's right.
And I think, too, that any act of abuse or assault ought to be treated equally. And as you've heard from some other people, this is not the case at all.
From the audience, George.
Just I have a statement. I'm not condoning this at all. But I have to be sympathetic to the women, because women have been battered for centuries, and also murdered.
Who gets battered?
Again, I'm not condoning it. I'm really not. I'm just saying that me as a woman, I have to be a little bit more sympathetic to my...
What difference does it make who gets battered or slapped, whether it's a male or a female? It is a serious thing.
Relationship.
I think it's important to put things into some kind of perspective. Domestic violence is about power and control. It's about a relationship where there's a whole pattern about trying to maintain power and control, very much like racism in our country. You know, those of us who are white are born into a kind of privilege just by the color of our skin, and we think that gives us a right to power. And men who batter women are born into this country thinking because they're born male they have a right to have power over, to be the king of the castle.
I think I asked you
about 3 years ago.
From the audience, please.
About power and control,
I just think it's terrible.
Charlotte, I believe I asked you about 3 years ago, where do you come off by saying that domestic violence is man's desire to control a woman? And yet 3 years ago I asked you, how do you account for domestic violence then in gay and lesbian relationships? And you dodged that question, and every other advocate has been dodging it ever since.
So it
doesn't hold any water, Charlotte.
I agree with her that it is about power and control. But women hit to exercise power and control and to coerce also.
And I have to say also, I think that Charlotte's approach is dangerous. I really do. Because by scapegoating men, you get men angry, so you get more male violence. And by implicitly condoning female... No, please, I'll let you finish. By implicitly condoning female violence, you get more of that. So all around, you get more violence, more victims. But you see, that's good for Charlotte, because that's more money for her.
And from the audience.
Nobody is
from the audience, please.
I just think it's terrible how the women are so insensitive to men's pain. I know men who are abused, and it's a terrible thing. And I think Mel's skirt looks great.
How do the laws pertain to this? I want to talk to you about how the laws pertain to battered men when we come back. We'll be right back.